What does Judith's expression in this painting say to you? What about that of her maidservant, Abra, looking up at her? Johann Liss's 1666 Judith in the Tent of Holofernes is a powerful painting, which for me tells us two stories. The first is a story of its black presence, a maidservant called Abra. The second is the story it tells about the role of women in society. To consider these stories, we first need to understand what Judith is doing in Holofernes' tent. Liss paintings tells the story of Judith from the book of Judith, which is included in the Catholic and the Orthodox Bibles, while Protestants consider it apocryphal. That's a story that is widely believed to be true, but is actually doubtful or unverified, as it contains too many anachronisms. Those are things out of place for the time it's in, just like seeing a smartphone in a movie set in the 1800s. The story revolves around Judith, a brave, beautiful widow who becomes frustrated with her fellow Jews for their lack of faith in God's deliverance as they are besieged in the town of Bethula by the Assyrian general Holofernes under King Nebuchadnezzar. To prevent the Jewish leaders from surrendering, Judith, accompanied by her maid Abra, sneaks into the enemy camp one night, having cast aside her garments of mourning and putting on her finest clothes, and wears her best jewelry, intending to seduce and betray Holofernes. Charmed by Judith's beauty, Holofernes allows her into his private tent, where they drink together, and Judith encourages him to drink excessively until he eventually passes out in a drunken stupor. With Abra standing guard, Judith seizes the opportunity to behead Holofernes, and thus saving her people. Her courageous act leaves his army leaderless, leading to their defeat and the liberation of the Jews. Johann Liss, born in Germany in the 1590s, became a prominent Baroque painter of the 17th century. He studied in Amsterdam, where he was likely influenced by the works of Peter Paul Rubens, whose version of Judith in the Tent of Holofernes, now lost, may well have inspired Liss's own interpretation. In the 1620s, Liss moved to Rome, passing through Paris and Venice. In Rome, he painted this powerful version of Judith in the Tent of Holofernes. Liszt's use of chiaroscuro, the dramatic contrast of light and shadow. We see the tension in Judith's back muscles as she delivers the fatal blow, severing Holofernes' head in one fluid movement with her right hand, while her left hand places the head into the basket held by her black maidservant, who gazes on in Baroque horror. Judith, her cheeks flushed from the decisive lethal act, meets our gaze defiantly, her eyes locked on ours. This painting embodies all the hallmarks of Baroque art, pulling the viewer directly into the heart of an emotional scene filled with drama and movement, made even more vivid by his masterful use of lighting effects. The Book of Judith does not specify the ethnicity or age of Judith's maidservant Abra, but it does mention that Judith granted Abra her freedom in her old age, indicating that Abra was likely enslaved at the time of the visit to Holofernes' tent. The depiction of a black female servant in the Judith narrative can be traced back to Andrea Mantegna's February 1491 drawing for Isabella d'Este. Isabella d'Este was a powerful, influential Renaissance figure, celebrated for her diplomatic skills, cultural patronage, and her role as a leading female patron of the arts. She is often referred to as the First Lady of the Renaissance. In Mantegna's version of the story, Judith's black maidservant is depicted holding a bag into which Judith places Holofernes' severed head with her left hand, while holding the sword in her right. The two women appear to be in conversation. It is believed that Mantegna's depiction of the black maidservant was drawn from life, based on one of Isabella's several black African maidservants. Isabella d'Este was known to collect black girls, favoring those with darker skin, as evidenced by numerous letters in which she instructed her agents to procure young black girls. In 16th century Italy, black servants were considered fashionable accessories among the elites, such as Isabella. They were often given as gifts or bequests and wills, and appeared in many portraits by the leading artists of the day. Paolo Veronese and Titian both had black enslaved servants in their portraits to signal the wealth and status of the sitters, such as the attentive black boy gazing up at his mistress in Titian's Laura Diante, or Veronese's The Finding of Moses, with its marginal black boy holding the baby Moses' basket. Both black figures are on the edge of the composition in minor, subservient, supportive roles, reflecting dutifully, looking up to the white figure at the center of their respective compositions. Both artists did their versions of Judith with the head of Holofernes in earlier Renaissance style, with its balanced compositions and sense of harmony, which told Judith's story like Mantegna with a black maid, but the Renaissance images lacked the Baroque power and drama we see in Liss's version. In Mantegna's drawing, the black maidservant is portrayed as an almost complicit partner to her mistress, though clearly of a lower social status, as indicated by a smaller size, simpler dress compared to Judith. In contrast, Liss' portrayal of Abra shows her as a marginal figure in the composition, with a hastily drawn hand holding the basket and only half her head visible. The fear in her eyes underscores the horror of Judith's act as she severs Holofernes' head with blood gushing from his neck. In contrast to Mantegna's depiction of Judith as a virtuous woman, other men paint Judith as the seductress, the deceiver of men, and the femme fatale. This darker portrayal is evident in works like Hans Blandung Grien's Judith 1525 and Jan Sanders van Hemerson's Judith 1540, with 16th century misogynistic interpretations depict Judith naked with Holofernes' severed head. In these works, Judith is portrayed as using her sexuality and cunning rather than her intellect and wit to defeat Holofernes. In fact, nearly all depictions of female heroines from this time and the periods before and after it show strong women as deriving their power from their sexuality. A notable exception is the depiction of Judith by the 17th century female artist Artemisia Gentileschi. Here, the female view of Holofernes' beheading is different from the male view. Artemisia's Judith is supported by her maidservant Abra. They work together, aggressively, dominantly, almost clinically beheading the drunken Holofernes. Two strong women with power and agency. The notion that strong women gained their power through their sexuality endured into the modern era, with artists like Gustav Klimt, Judith 1901, presenting Judith as a seductress and temptress, using her sexual allure to overpower Holofernes. I cannot discuss this work's black presence without considering how the American artist Kehinde Wiley has reinterpreted the Judith story in his own highly distinctive style, placing a contemporary black figure at the center of a composition that reworks art traditions. Wiley has created two versions of the Judith story, both featuring a black woman as Judith. In each, she holds a sword in her right hand and Holofernes' head gripped by the hair in her outstretched left hand. She gazes arrogantly out of the canvas, directly engaging the viewer, set against a backdrop of intricate floral and botanical motifs reminiscent of William Morris's iconic wallpaper designs. Controversially, in one version, Judith holds the head of a white man, and in the other, a white woman. Both images provocatively confront historically charged relationships between black women and white men, and black women and white women. Johann Liss's 1666 Judith in the Tent of Holofernes offers two compelling narratives. Its black presence highlights the role of black individuals in Renaissance Europe, often portrayed as enslaved servants, accessories, and symbols of power and status. The other narrative explores the depiction of women in society, presenting two contradictory interpretations. One as a noble, virtuous woman who saves her people from Holofernes' army, and the other as a seductive femme fatale who lures and then brutally decapitates Holofernes. Liss's painting seems to straddle these two interpretations, leaving room for ambiguity. On the one hand, Judith's determined expression and the act of saving her people suggest a portrayal of strength and nobility. On the other, her flushed cheeks and the gruesome nature of the scene could hint at the dangerous allure of the femme fatale. Ultimately, Liss might be intentionally blurring the lines between these two depictions, challenging the viewer to contemplate the complexity of Judith's character. Perhaps the painting is not asking us to choose between these two interpretations, but rather to recognize that both can coexist within the same figure, a woman who is both a savior and a temptress, capable of great courage and unsettling violence. What do you think? Is it possible that Liss wanted to capture the multifaceted nature of Judith, reflecting the complexities and contradictions inherent in the role of women in society? If you're interested in learning more about art history, click here or here and subscribe to our channel. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.